Candice Bakx-Friesen, and today I'm here with Sylvia. So welcome, Sylvia, to our podcast.
Thank you.
Investor Smarts Money in the Entrepreneurial Spirit. So I'm really excited to have you, partially because you are a wonderful person, and partially because you have so much to offer for people who are thinking about getting into speaking. And sometimes that's a natural progression for people when they've been already working in a career and they want to take that next step to now speaking. And so I wanted to have you on our podcast because you have so many great tips and you've been there, you've done it, and that's what people need to hear. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Candice. I'm so happy to talk about this because, of course, it's an area of incredible passion, and it's just the thing that I love to do the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So how did you start then? What was the path that you took to become a professional speaker?
Well, on my website, there's a little video that kind of talks about how I got into professional speaking. And on that video, I talk about the fact that it looks like it happened by accident. And some people would say that, looking at how, what the progression was from providing occupational therapy services in a clinic to speaking internationally. But I believe it's by calling, and I believe that this is what I am on the earth to do. It's what my purpose is in this life, and more, I guess that's sort of the broader context. More specifically, I believe my purpose is to help people, and that sounds also very broad, but really to help people stop suffering, physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It's very difficult for me to see people suffer, and I know that suffering is optional for a lot of us, and I feel called to help people stop their suffering by changing their life and creating health instead of disease. And so how this all started really was becoming employed by a medical clinic in Winnipeg and having to take over a presentation for someone who was sick. And it was a presentation to hospital staff. Mm-hmm. And it was back in the days of overheads. And it was the presentation itself was not terrible, but it wasn't my words or my flow. So I was terrible. And I was very dependent on the overheads, and it was virtually reading the overheads. Yeah. Until we got to the practical part where we were working in groups and demonstrating techniques. And then I really had fun. Mm-hmm. So the feedback was really, really positive about the presentation. People really loved it. And my boss approached me at the time and said, people really enjoyed this. The feedback was really good. This is something you're really good at. And I went, no, actually it was awful. And I don't want to do it again. And she said, well, everybody has to take a turn doing it. So you will get another turn in a few months. And I said, okay, fine. So the next time it was my turn, I redid the presentation. I did it my way. Yeah. And it was great. Like, I really enjoyed it. Discovered the rest of the staff hated it. Didn't like doing it. And so I went to my boss and I said, can I do them all from now on? Can I just take that off everybody else's plate? They don't like doing it. I do. And that gave me, it's the bug.
Yeah.
You get bitten. And so shortly thereafter, so that went on for about, 6 months or so, maybe 8 months. And then one day she came into our work area and said, Manitoba Hydro is looking for a presentation on stress. Does anybody want to do it? And no one put their hand up. And of course, I didn't put my hand up at first either. Yeah. And then she was about to walk out and I said, I'll do it. And she said, oh, do you have a presentation? And I said, no, but I'll create something. And from that one presentation to about, 150 people. Yeah. I just went through the entire organization, one department at a time. It was like every month I had 1, 2, sometimes 3 presentations for different hydro departments, and it was on and on. Now, from that hydro series of presentations that I did, there was an individual who was on a planning committee for a provincial conference, a safety conference, and he put my name out there. They agreed to have me come in and present. And then I presented at the Safety Services of Manitoba conference for 10 years in a row.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of everything for me, because from there I got picked up by a national speakers bureau who then started promoting me in Canada. And so here we are, you know, many years later, 18 years later.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is not an easy field to be in. Yeah. It is not easy. It's very competitive. Candice, you know that, right?
Yeah.
You know, you've experienced that. It is not easy. And most of us are not, you know, the Tony Robbins of the world.
Right. So,
right?
So a lot of people will think, I got to start small, but one of your main presentations was to or one of your starting presentations was to 150 people.
Right.
That's a fairly big audience to get started.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think also it's, and maybe you can comment on this, but we think we got to start small and then, you know, maybe start with 10 people, then go to 20 people, but really you just started with a big crowd.
Yes. And I think sometimes, Candice, we allow fear, all of us, in so many aspects of our life, right? We allow fear to shield us from acknowledging and understanding and living into our own potential.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't fully understand that this was my calling.
Right.
But when it's your calling and you know it, you can't stop it. Once this starts, you can't stop it.
Yeah. So,
you know,
yeah. So tell me about what are some of the steps that you have to take as a professional speaker that maybe people don't know? For example, how are you promoting yourself? You talked about a speakers bureau. If you want to explain a little bit more about that too.
Sure.
Yeah. And how else you advertise.
Yeah. So I did everything backwards. And I've been told that by a business coach who said to me, you know, you did everything in the wrong order, but you've been successful in spite of yourself, which I took as a very great compliment.
Yeah.
And I did do everything backwards. So what I did was I jumped on with the Speakers Bureau. And again, this is about not letting fear keep you small. My vision was big, and I used phrases like, someday I want to speak outside of Manitoba. Someday I want to speak, you know, all over Canada. Someday I want to speak in the US. And you have to believe this. Like, if you don't really believe it, or you have self-doubt, that self-doubt is what gets magnified and blessed, right? Definitely. Your fearlessness also gets blessed. So when I started, and I was very, very blessed to work with a national bureau, and I'll tell you why that's a good thing in a moment, because a lot of people say you don't need a bureau, and you don't, but you do.
Right.
Once I started with that, then the more that you speak, the more speaking opportunities you get, because the best advertisement is when people hear you and they go, oh my gosh, I got to tell my husband about this.
Yeah.
I got to, you know, I'm going to put her name forward on our conference committee, or, oh, I wonder if she would come to my workplace.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to advertise. And the second best way to advertise, of course, is your own presence. So when you are in the, you're in the venue. I always love doing conferences where many workplaces are represented versus one workplace of 300 people that I'm speaking to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, hopefully they will go home and tell their spouses and friends, and that might get me work. But I love conference opportunities or speaking opportunities where there are many different representatives from many different companies, because that's 100 potential clients in my room.
Exactly.
So people tend to book speakers in one of two ways. They either hear it from someone, or they hear the speaker themselves. And then they bring that information back to their teams. So those are the two best ways to advertise. While I am speaking, I also subtly market the other stuff that I do so that people are aware that I'm not a one trick or a one talk wonder.
Yeah.
I have many presentations, and that's another strategy.
Right.
Set yourself up to be a repeat offender to the same conference, or I call, repeat offender, frequent flyer.
Yeah.
Set yourself up. If you have one really good presentation, you'll get some work. If you have 3 really good presentations or 4, you could potentially go back to the same organization or conference more often. And that is very rare in this industry.
I would think
so
it makes it easier for them, right? If they like you, when they can see in the room that people like you, it's like, okay, let's just have her back next year.
Right.
It's easy.
Right. And I have worked with companies and organizations that have a policy of never having the same speaker twice.
Okay.
But they have had me back, not because I'm so amazing, but because I have really good content.
Right.
And we can talk about that in a moment too. So that's a little bit about advertising, a little bit about how I got started, and let's talk a little bit about the bureaus now. Now, as time has gone through, as I've gone through this professional speaking career, I have been picked up and dropped by bureaus. When a bureau isn't following up with a client, and you need to do the follow-up and they still want a commission when they're not doing the work, that doesn't lead to good feelings. So I have been invited to leave a bureau for that reason, just conflict of interest. You got to work with good bureaus. You've got to vet your bureaus. Right. Don't think that any bureau that accepts you should be grateful and humbled by. No. You need to vet your bureaus too.
Yeah.
Don't work with bureaus that don't have good ethics or that don't understand that you as the speaker, you're the commodity.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
People don't hire a bureau without speakers, but they will hire speakers without bureaus.
Right.
So the bureau's livelihood depends on you.
Mm-hmm.
You are not solely dependent on the bureau for your livelihood. So you vet your bureaus. I am so blessed with the bureaus I work with now. These people are friends, they're family. My bureau in BC, I mean, I work with an organization called Top Safety Speakers. She's got 2 bureaus. Spellbinders Speakers Bureau is the other one. Marianne is gold.
Yeah.
And her clients love her, and she's my top bureau that I work with.
Right.
The value of working with a bureau is that you get instant credibility.
Yeah.
So if you're good enough for a bureau, people will take a serious look at you. Now, there are some speakers that don't have bureaus, and they might challenge that thought, but especially when you're starting out and you get yourself to sort of that mid-range price range, it's nice to work with a few bureaus because they lend credibility to what you do.
And so do any of them, or have they ever said, we want you exclusive, you're not allowed to work with anybody else?
Yes, I would not recommend that.
No.
Yeah, I've done that. It was a really bad move. I would never recommend that again. Having an agent work on your behalf is another story. That's different. That can work sometimes, but I was warned against going exclusive, but for a variety of reasons, I did it.
Yeah.
It was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's anything in business. As soon as people start asking for exclusive, it's great when it works great, but if it goes sour, then you're a little bit stuck, or you're trying to rebuild, or
Right. So what I would recommend in terms of how to start and the pieces or steps to follow if you want to do this as a career is to understand that, for me, I didn't start with marketing material. I started with bureaus.
Right.
And And then from there, I developed a website. From there, I developed marketing materials. From there, I developed the press kit and the video.
Right.
What you would probably want to do is start with a website.
Yeah.
Start with marketing material and a really good quality short speakers reel, which is a video of you speaking, you in action.
Yeah.
These can be staged. You don't need to have a big event,
right,
to be able to buy these videos. They're about $1,000 a minute on average for your video. You don't want more than a couple of minutes because people don't want to be yawning through it.
And it also can get dated over time where you have to keep redoing the video too, right?
Absolutely. And mine, like one of mine is really dated. I'm just in the process of organizing my next one. The problem is that I don't speak as much in Manitoba, so the opportunities are not as plentiful for me to have that video done. The other thing you should know is that a lot of organizations will say no if you ask to bring a videographer.
Right.
You must ask permission.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If you can bring somebody with you, it's expensive to fly them wherever you're going, but yeah.
And there's great people in Manitoba. You know, if you're in this, like there's great people in every province, regardless of where you're coming from or state.
Yeah.
So that's really, really important. So I would say good website, make sure that all the keywords are embedded so that when people are doing searches, they find that they find your website. I wasn't on social media. Do social media, suck it up. I have gotten jobs from social media, including Facebook.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're on LinkedIn, likely.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you can't do it all, hire someone that can do some of your content. I do have someone that does some of my content, not on Facebook, but on some of my other platforms because I need that help.
Yeah.
So I would say start with a good website, get that speakers reel, make sure that you have what we call a promo page in the industry. It's kind of a one-page summary. It's got your bio. Yeah. It must have testimonials. That's something we'll talk about in a moment. It must have testimonials. It needs to have a description of your presentations and a quick link to book you. Right. So that it's easy for people. Yeah. Ideally, you'd want to embed a link for your video as well so that people can just pop it up on a laptop, show the conference committee your video, and they can make a decision, and they often will make a decision based on your video. Right. Yeah. And then you want to have, and then, you know, down the road, once you've got your promo page, then you want to have something called a press kit, which is a bio that someone could read out at your event. So it's relatively brief, a headshot that they can copy and use for publications. Yeah. You want to have your promo page and the outline of the presentations that you do, and a link to your video, and that's a press kit. Mm-hmm. And not difficult to put together. You just need to make sure you have all those pieces. Yeah. And then you got to speak. Yeah. And so let's talk about that, because that's where a lot of people will be at if they're just getting started. Right. Where do you find the opportunities? Do you create, you know, for us, a women's event? Do you create some events or work your network and just keep staying in front of people? Or if you're not picked up by a bureau, what are some of the ways that you can maybe work with your network? Because I think so often we rely on the internet, and also if I'm on social media, this will all work out. But I think there's huge value in still networking and doing the face-to-face. Absolutely. And I think every single thing that you mentioned is like each of those marketing tools has incredible value in and of themselves. But when you put them all together, now you've got volume, right? So I'm gonna share with you a story that, not a story, but a piece of advice that I gave someone recently who was very frustrated with having to work in a job that wasn't really firing him up every day when his real passion is speaking.
Right.
And he said, how do I move this forward? And so what I did that really helped me was I kept my day job in a clinic while I was building my professional speaking career, because I'm a moderate risk investor. I will, right? Like, I kind of keep my cards a little close to my chest. I wasn't in a position to take the risk to quit my job, give up my, regional health authority pension, and then jump both feet into entrepreneurship. So I spent quite a number of years building my business. And then last year I lost my job in the clinic, blessing after blessing, let me tell you, because what seemed like a horrific experience at that time for other reasons, personal reasons, was the exact push that I needed to be busier than I ever imagined I could be.
Right. And
more successful.
Yeah. And that's where you get eventually, right? Like, most entrepreneurs are not saying, oh, I'll quit my job. I woke up this morning, I decided I'm going to quit my job, and now I'm a speaker. Those stories are always exciting, and everyone thinks, I can do that too. That's not realistic for a lot of people. But at some point, you'll hear exactly what you said. There was something that happened that finally pushed me to get to that next level. So maybe it's not from step 0 to step 1, but it's from step 5 to suddenly step 10.
Right. And sometimes the something we look for, Candice, is a golden opportunity. And sometimes it's not that. It's somebody's foot on your head trying to stomp you into the ground that is your golden opportunity. Right? My belief is this: God, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, will nudge you in the right direction with opportunity or challenge.
Right.
And if you don't listen the first time, or take the opportunity, or deal with the challenge, and let's give an example of a challenge, a really toxic workplace. And you have the first awareness that this is not good for me, but you keep staying because of all the little things we tell ourselves. I can't do it financially. I can't upend my family. I don't have another job to go to. All valid, right? But then the next thing happens, and now there's something really awful, really catastrophic at work that just devastates you. Right? And that's God or the universe or whatever you want to believe in saying, I told you. Now it's time. And you ignore that. And you keep going and keep going and keep getting sicker and sicker. And then bam, you lose your job. Insult to injury. Right? Of all the horrible things that could happen. But then you realize that was a gift.
It happens. And it's never great when it happens, but looking back, that's when you can see it.
Exactly. So if we could employ hindsight in the present moment and say, when something horrible happens, how will this benefit me someday? If I were 3 months from now, if I were to look at this from 3 months from now, what could I see in this that might be good for me? Because maybe I can use hindsight right now.
Right. And sometimes it won't work, but you can have that mindset for sure.
Right. So I played it safe, and every day I was thankful that I had a job with a stable income, healthcare benefits, and all the rest while I was exploring my own business. And at the same time, some years ago, while I was developing this professional speaking business as my retirement job or my retirement joy, I should call it. I was also developing a second branch of my business, which more features the skills that I have as an occupational therapist.
Right.
And that's called the SHOP program. And it's an acronym. So it stands for Safety and Health for Organizations and People. So SHOP.
Right.
And this program is primarily right now in manufacturing and production, but I've done it in construction, I've done it in healthcare, and it is an on-site injury prevention program with other rehabilitation professionals that work for me and work with me. And we provide on-site physiotherapy and occupational therapy services to keep people with symptoms at work, but healthy. So we try to help people heal their symptoms while they're continuing to do their jobs. So we do industrial ergonomics, we do office ergonomics, we do job demands analysis, we do on-site rehabilitation, we do job modification, all that kind of stuff. So this is what I did while I was playing it safe with my income. Now, what I suggested to this friend of mine who was struggling with a job that he didn't like or wasn't happy with is what I said to him: view this as your ticket to freedom.
Right.
You need to switch your mindset around about this job and feel extraordinary gratitude, because this is your safety net.
Yeah.
And it's also your ticket to freedom, because it's going to allow you the income and stability to develop your professional speaking business into something that is thriving, so that eventually you can move into that.
Yeah.
And so what I suggested to him in terms of a strategy, so there's so many ways to get your name out there. And what I suggested to him was that he handpick some places where he had some connections and say to them, and this isn't a lie, but it's a way of introducing this. Tell them that you are working on a pilot project, working with the leadership of an organization, and you would love to deliver your presentation to Company X's leadership team for free. But what you want in return is, if they're happy, you want a testimonial. Okay, because nothing is free. Don't ever do anything for free. Ask for something. And number two, feedback. Give me some feedback so that I can perfect my program. And if they like it, they could hire you, they could hire him to roll this out to other departments. And this has been a fantastic strategy for him.
That's great.
So you get a number of things out of this that are value added. They're not monetary, but they're value added. The testimonial, a referral. You can always ask for a referral. The possibility of work with another department. And what I would say is, if a company says, well, you know, we've got 12 departments, I would say, what's your highest risk department? What's your most troublesome department? Where do you have the most absenteeism? Where do you have the most stress? Where do you have, let me talk to them. And you know, of course, when you're first starting out, you're doing a lot of things for free, in quotations. You ask for something in return. Okay, you ask for a referral, you ask for a testimonial, you ask for the opportunity to work in other departments, etc. And then so you do stuff for free with these intangibles, you know, as in exchange. And then you want to start looking for opportunities, like companies that are doing lunch and learns, for example. Right. Great way to get started. You know, go to your dentist's office and say, hey, you know, I do presentations on this. Do you think that your staff would be interested in having me come in at a staff meeting?
And I think sometimes too, people, if you're just starting and you have never, if you're coming from a 9-to-5 job and you're not used to selling yourself, this is an easier way to get started. Because you're like, okay, if I screw up, I haven't asked for thousands of dollars for the first
Right.
presentation. So it feels
Right.
a little bit easier to get started in selling yourself when you have never done that.
Yes. Yes. And you have to be unafraid to say to somebody, hey, so for example, for me, I had an opportunity to be interviewed on the radio one morning.
Yeah.
And I, after that, felt comfortable to contact, this was on CJOB years ago. It ended up leading to me getting my own show.
Right.
I would contact, one of the interviewers and say, I have something really interesting, or I heard a news story that you guys presented this morning, and I have a comment about that. Can I come on and say something about that?
Yeah.
Sure. So I would be interviewed by phone. I became their health and wellness expert that they would, invite to comment on something that was going on in the news. And that still happens to this day.
Yeah.
After 3 of those interviews, that radio station offered me my own show. I was terrified. I was like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I have to do this. I cannot not do this.
Yeah. I was
terrified.
I was recently asked to do a book forward. In my head, I said, oh my goodness, no. To the person, I said, of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It happens so often in life, right? Where it's the first thing you want to say is no, but you don't.
Right.
You say yes, and you just figure it out, and it's going to work out, and the right people will come to help you, or you finally have the courage. Like if you have a radio show, the first thing you're going to do is say, oh my goodness, who can I call? But until you've been forced to, you're not going to call for help, and you're not going to ask, right?
100%.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. And if you don't change what you're doing, you will not change what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to grow your business, you have to step into these opportunities and not be afraid, and surround yourself with mentors. Now, I'll be honest with you, there are lots of professional speakers who charge for mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I have been encouraged to charge for mentorship. So if somebody wanted to work with me, for 6 months, I suppose I would have to charge for something long, like a long-term commitment like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're my son always says this is a quote from somewhere, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get with people who are doing what you want to do and stick to them.
Yeah.
Follow them, watch what they do, learn their style. I'll be honest, I don't have a crazy, amazing, I climbed Mount Everest backwards on my hands, naked in the moonlight in January. Like I don't have that story.
Yeah.
I am an ordinary person trying to live an extraordinary life. So I have to work harder than a person that has the extraordinary story.
Right.
However, what I do know is that I am an activational speaker. I am not a motivational speaker.
Right.
I activate people by giving them tools. And that's the other piece that is so life-changing. If you want to develop a career as a professional speaker, you better be able to tell me in 60 seconds why I should hire you and not the 50,000 other amazing speakers on this continent.
Yeah.
Know why it's you and not Candice Bakx-Friesen or Sylvia Marusyk or Stephanie Staples or, Bruce Pulver. Like, who are you for my company? Tell me and nail it in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah. You have given us so many amazing tidbits and things to work on if somebody is looking to speak. And I think the key in trying to do anything new is breaking that out, right? If somebody re-listens to this podcast, make a list and say, okay, I'm going to tackle my one speaker sheet, my one sheet in January.
Yeah.
I'm going to start working on my reel in February, right? And keep taking action. But a lot of these steps too do take a little bit of time.
Yes, they do. And they take some expertise. Like you've got to work with the right people.
Yeah.
And so ask for advice. You don't have to take the one piece of advice that you get from Candice or from Sylvia, but ask Candice and Sylvia
Yeah.
and Joe and Sally, and like ask a bunch of people and get some good advice, and then sit with that and see what feels right to you. Because
Yeah.
what has never felt right to me is the advice that I got from so many people, which is tell your story.
Right.
Well, my deep personal story is a story that I will not share,
Right.
because not yet, maybe someday, but there are people alive who I don't want, my children, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
There are some aspects of my story that I don't want to share because
Mhm.
other people would be affected by that.
Yeah.
And I'm not protecting anybody who, I'm protecting people who are innocent, not people who are
Yeah.
at fault, if
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So don't take the advice that doesn't sit right with you.
Right.
I
I think.
tell other stories of mine, but not the deep, deep,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And like you said, you took a certain path to success. Other people will tell you you have to take this path. It's not true.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to do it. And sometimes, again, even if a different path would get you there quicker, you have to do your way and your path sometimes just to stay authentic to you.
Yes. And the biggest barrier to your success is you.
Yeah. Always.
So get out of your way, right?
Yeah.
Eliminate the self-doubt, put
Yeah.
it aside,
Yeah.
and know what you are called to do. If you're in your calling, no one can stop you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So going from what your path would have been, or what you visualized your path was going to be, to suddenly that's been ramped up because now you're doing it full time.
Right.
It's great to set goals that are, this is what I expect I'm going to be doing in 2 years or 5 years, but getting a radio show suddenly changes things.
Yeah.
Changing from having a job to now doing this full time changes things. So
Yeah.
what has changed going now suddenly full force, full time into speaking? And what does that look like now for the next couple of years in terms of what you're planning and how things have changed in perspective?
So these have been really big changes, and I think there have been a number of things that I have started to employ as of last year with my job loss and a number of other personal changes in my life that have been game changers for helping me have resilience and flexibility no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
So I've always had a lot of really good health practices, but I've really magnified those. So the daily exercise and the anti-inflammatory eating, just to keep any metabolic stress at bay.
Right.
And then I have daily practices. So I have a gratitude exercise that I do every day, and sometimes I will actually have out loud arguments with myself. I don't feel grateful today, and my own voice coming back to me, find something, Sylvia.
Yeah.
I know there's nothing today. Find something, Sylvia. Aren't you grateful for? And I will have this out loud discussion with myself. But gratitude and anger, or gratitude and resentment, or gratitude and fear do not coexist in the brain at the same time.
Yeah.
You cannot run both pathways at the same time. So when you start on a gratitude pathway, it shuts down all the other voices in your head saying, but she did this, and he said this, and I'm mad at so-and-so, and why don't I have, and I can't. All of that shuts down. And your brain just focuses on gratitude, and it sets the stage. So I do a gratitude exercise every morning. I do a meditation every morning. And the other piece that is super intentional for me is I set my energy for the day. and I decide what my energy is for the day.
Right.
If I'm doing a presentation, in my meditation, I ask, what does my audience need today? What do they need from me?
Yeah.
And I listen, and then I know how I need to show up for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I am really intentional about making sure that whatever I bring is what is needed.
Right.
And I totally surrender to that process. It's a complete trust that this is bigger than me.
Yeah.
So those are things that I do every day to help me continue to be successful as a speaker.
Yeah.
And to adapt to the constantly changing landscape of my life. Like you just got to roll with it, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of
because more recently you're starting to do a lot more international and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Right? So things definitely have changed a lot.
Right. Absolutely, they have. And I could not possibly fit working in a clinic part-time in with what I'm doing. My shop program is very busy, and I provide services at all times of, just 2 weeks ago, I came back from Chicago in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was in a factory, till 11 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
Because it was time to go see my guys in the factory. And, I ended up going there late, but they were on shift.
Yeah.
And I don't take that lightly.
Yeah.
Like, they're expecting me, right?
Yeah.
So I go at whatever time they need. So where I see things going for me is continued international work. And my goal would be to see my shop program develop to the point where I am not involved as much in that, but I let the people that work with me and for me run that piece of my business.
Yeah.
I trust them, I vet them, I pay them very well because I am very invested in they're all women. This is I'm not gender stereotyping here. I'm not preferring women over men. I just chose women, and I chose women who would benefit from a good extra income.
Yeah.
And if I did the work myself, if I did all of it myself, which I probably could, I would be able to keep all the money for myself, but I would love to share the wealth a little and see them be successful.
Yeah.
And being able to do the things for their families with this extra money. And I love them dearly, and they're extraordinary people. So I'd love to see that part of the business grow, and I'd love them to take it and do it and be successful with it. I get passive income from that. That's lovely, but it's not really necessary. We all have more than what we need anyways.
Yeah.
So, and then what I would like to focus on is more international work. My book is in the last stages of being edited. So
it's exciting.
I'm excited about that. So I'd like to see that finished. And I just want people to understand that if you can create disease, which we can, and we are exceptional at in North America, then you can create health. And I just want to show people how to do that, because I know how to do it. I've done it for myself.
Yeah.
I've witnessed people do it, and I understand the science. I'm a science geek, and I marry science and faith and science and energy medicine, and that's all science anyways, but I understand how to switch on the opportunity to create health and switch off the disease, illness, and sickness making switches that so many of us have flipped on. Yeah. And I just want people to know how to do that, because suffering is optional in so many cases.
Yeah. But so many people, they don't have that hope, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, listening to a presentation, I think sometimes people think, well, how much impact can you make with one presentation? But sometimes that's the ball that gets that starts, you know, rolling for people.
Yeah.
And they can make massive change. And I know that you've told me in the past about people who have reached out later who said, because of you, right? This is
Yeah.
where I'm at now in my life. And that's just incredible.
There is a saying, Candice, that I think about every time I go and do a presentation, and that is, it's a Buddhist saying, the teacher arrives when the student is ready.
Yeah.
Now, as professional speakers, we don't have the luxury of always talking to a room full of ready to change people.
Yeah.
Right? Because change requires effort. And not everyone is thinking, gee, I'd like to put a lot of effort into my day today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So by creating relevance and hope, and I love that you mentioned that because that's such a key thing for me.
Yeah.
By creating relevance and hope, we can help people get ready for the message.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's really important.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all the information that you gave everybody. And you're such a lovely woman. So if people want to reach out to you and potentially be coached by you, or just be able to look at some of the things that you're doing and the impact that you have, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
So if people are looking for me, you can certainly follow me on all of my social media, which you can get to through my website. And if you're looking to book a presentation, or you're looking for information about the shop program or some of the other things that I do, find me at mindbodyworks.ca.
Perfect. Nice and easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Candice. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.